This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Whilst I was playing this guitar the other night, my buddy Jake got this one back from Nashville. It's a Nacho. I kind of had the thought, like, I could sell a bunch of my guitars except for like my K-line guitars. There's like a couple that I don't think I would want to sell, maybe ever. And maybe buy one of these, potentially. Is that a way that you can justify spending maybe like 2 times more than you'd ever be comfortable spending on a guitar, if it enables you to sort of create a bunch of space in the house, get rid of a bunch of guitars that maybe you've been thinking like you've not totally bonded with? That's kind of a thought I've been having, so I kind of wanted to make a video on it, chat about it. Maybe we could have a coffee, maybe you're on the toilet. Good luck with that. What was cool about this, so this broke a string, I think it's the saddle here, but I did notice that the guitar didn't move, which is a pretty good sign. I think a V neck is even more stable than a C, right? Something to do with like physics. Isn't a V one of the strongest sort of shapes? Maybe. Anyway, so that was what I was thinking. I even went as far as writing down a list. Now, I don't know exactly how much Nacho casters are, but I think they're in about the ballpark of like a Fender Masterbuilt. I don't know if a Fender Masterbuilt might hold its value better over time or increase in value, or whether the Nacho caster kind of has a name in and of itself which might keep it valuable over time as well. But anyway, I've got like a start of a list. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guitars here that I'm kind of on the fence with selling anyway. So I kind of thought, well, maybe it's something, if these do all sell, and if the tax return at the end of January is okay, like, could that be a justifiable idea to spend then however much money a Nacho caster actually costs? I don't know. It's still something. I did say this to my buddy Jake, who knows that I'm like a bit of a like, I don't like to spend too much money on stuff, you know. I think growing up on a farm, parents basically would spend money on like piano lessons for me, but we didn't really have holidays or anything like that. So the idea of spending like this kind of money on a guitar does seem a little bit wild to me. But then I'm thinking like there's at least 7 guitars here that I'm not necessarily sort of wedded to, and I don't think of as them being particularly special or necessarily great guitars for me. And if I find a guitar that is a great guitar for me, is it worth then offloading sort of 7 guitars that aren't speaking to me as much right now in the pursuit of finding something better? I'm reminded of Keith from fivewattworld, because I think we have similar sort of goals on this, in terms of at one point I might have thought of myself as a collector, and I had like these ideas like maybe I could have each of the Mesa Boogie Mark series amps. And then as time has gone on, I've had a kid. I think actually that's not really gonna work in this house. So for me, it's now more about trying to have less gear that means more to me potentially. Like, so, you know, my blue K-line is obviously non-negotiable. That's got to stick around, even though at some point it's going to need a fret job, which would be a sad day. You know, I've got my Gibson ES165, the hollow body. That's kind of, I think, non-negotiable. Just because if I ever wanted to play jazz, that would be the guitar that I'd play it on. There's some other guitars, like all of my K-lines, basically, I would like to keep because I really like them, really like what Chris does. But then there's a bunch of other guitars that do not speak to me in the same way. And sometimes, you know, for the channel, I'll buy cheaper guitars, like the PRS C24 Satin. Now, that's not really going to go very far to making up the money that I would need to buy a Nacho. But there's some other bits and pieces here that I don't really play that much at all. I'm just thinking, well, is that justifiable? I also thought that maybe it would kind of be money over and above what a Nacho might cost, but I think that might be wishful thinking. Like, if I got exactly as much as I was asking for all of these guitars in my head, then would I be able to afford one and then some extra? Maybe, but I'm gonna guess actually that's probably optimistic. If we call it like the Nacho goal, even if I never actually end up finding a Nacho, then I will still have the benefit of having a bit of extra space and certainly a lot of extra money that I could maybe help to pay off some of the mortgage with. So in some ways, like, the Nacho part of it might be like a step that I may never take, because, yeah, but I don't know, that's enough of that. Should I do some playing? It's not something I've ever considered at all. Can it be responsible to get rid of a bunch of cheaper or, you know, less special guitars for you in order to find the one special guitar, if there is such a thing? I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Would you just go, I'm not ever going to be able to raise enough money from selling my other gear to buy like an actual vintage Fender. I don't know whether I have the stomach for buying vintage gear in general anyway, and definitely don't have the knowledge. But this thing seems to be speaking to me. I don't know if you guys think it's just like drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Or do you think there is something to these Natrocaster things? There's no reason to me that it should be unbelievable that if a guy is a real expert on these types of guitars, that he can't set in place a process in which to build really good Telecasters consistently, right? Like I said, Keith sold off a bunch of gear in order to fund some purchases that took up less space, essentially, like a few Collings instead of lots of other gear. Is this a good route to sort of whittle your collection down to something that's at the end a little bit more special? Love to know your thoughts if you've got any on it. Or are you happier having like many guitars? Like that's another thing that some people seem to like, having like a huge variety or like quantity. If I did this, get me to a situation where I had less than 10 guitars. And I don't count acoustic guitars, obviously.